Hello everyone, I'm Weston's Weatherwise, and in today's video we break down the upcoming severe weather and the upcoming pattern change coming to the United States, and is there a tropical system brewing? We will break that all down in today's video, diving right into things here. We do actually have a marginal risk of severe weather across a very large area. This encompasses places from northern Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin into portions of the Michigan Peninsula and portions of eastern Oregon back into the Oklahoma-Texas panhandle. So, very large risk, but a slight risk of severe weather is in play today. And we actually could see a few tornadoes today up there in that slight risk area in Michigan and Minnesota and North Dakota. You can tell here. 2% tornado risk. I do actually think we could see a few tornadoes up here in far northeast Minnesota. So we're definitely going to watch it. 15% non-hatched wind. I could definitely see this getting upgraded to a hatched risk across this area. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. And then a 5% hail risk. I actually do think that we may actually get a 15% up here. Maybe even back here. So it may just be across this area right here or something. We're going to see, though, here soon within the next 20 minutes. And moving on to the day 2 outlook, very large marginal risk extending from portions of Kansas into portions of Michigan and Wisconsin. Then we have another marginal risk extending from portions of New Mexico and the Oklahoma-Texas panhandle into portions of North Dakota and Montana, with a slight risk from portions of Montana and North Dakota into portions of Nebraska and Wyoming. And tomorrow, I do think we could see an isolated tornado too, and I would not even rule out a tornado across this area tomorrow. So we're going to watch that, but the SBC thinks the highest threat of tornadoes tomorrow is across this area and portions of Wyoming and Montana into portions of South Dakota. And you can tell 15% non-hatched wind and a 15% non-hatched hail risk. Moving on to the day 3 outlook, we only have a marginal risk of severe weather at this time, and I would not rule out a marginal risk across this area by day 1, and maybe even a slight risk in this area. We'll watch it, but looks like severe weather may die down on Sunday into early next week. Moving on to the HRRR and what we could expect today and what radar may look like today, you can tell supercells are going to fire right around 4 o'clock today. And any storm that can stay discreet, I do actually think could pose a tornado threat, more of a elevated tornado threat. But I do want to say right here around 5 o'clock, I'm at 3 o'clock. Sorry, we went back in time there. So 3 o'clock, these storms I do think could produce some pretty large hail. And I do actually think that could bring a tornado potential across this area. So we're definitely going to have to watch it. But these storms down here that fired around 4 o'clock do eventually form into a line, and they will form into a pretty large line, bringing that damaging wind threat. So we're going to watch it closely. But if I go ahead and look at the significant tornado parameter values right here, you can tell the chance for a tornado is there with these storms. So we're definitely going to have to watch. Also along that leading edge of that line, we're going to have to watch for a spin-up tornado or two. So what the NAM-NST model is showing, it shows those supercells firing around 2 o'clock. So we're going to have to watch that closely. And then it shows these firing around 4 o'clock too. But you can tell it has a very broken line already forming, right as they fire. And we'll definitely have to watch that. But this does look like it is going to be more of a wind threat than a tornado risk. So we're going to watch it. And I will not be able to go live because I will be out on the lake. But there's plenty of other people out there that you can get severe weather information from. Moving on to the HRRR. This is actually what we could see today out here in the Pacific Northwest. You can tell nothing too intense, just a bunch of scattered showers and thunderstorms today. And we may actually get some small hailers in here, maybe a damaging wind threat out of these weird lines, but nothing really too crazy looks to happen out of this. And then NST model here, if we actually move back here to portions, we actually should probably move this to the northwest. Yeah, shows that same thing, these weird lines that may produce that damaging wind threat. So we're going to watch it, but I don't think anything too crazy in the Pacific Northwest. So this is the HRRR, and this is going to be for tomorrow, Saturday, July 5th. And I do actually think a elevated tornado threat and a 5% tornado risk could get put in play across this area, because it's a pretty good atmosphere they have to work with, as we can tell. Surface-based CAPE is there. The SIG TOR values are there. Now, they're not crazy high, but they're there. And I do think those discrete cells that fire off across that area are going to be bad. If you go and look back at reflectivity, you can tell they aren't intense for too long, and they form to a bit of a messy line. But I do think once they first fire, they could be intense. Now here is the GFS, and this is a look at the atmosphere. This is the jet stream right now, and you can tell it's lifted very far off to the north. We have a shortwave trough. Ignore my dog. But you can tell here, jet stream is going to be lifted very far to the north, and it looks like it's going to stay that way for a while. So we're going to have to watch these whenever we get this trough digging. And please, like I said, ignore my dog. But we're going to have to watch across this area whenever we get these low pressure systems spinning off to the north. But nothing too crazy. I will say by mid-July, if this happens, we actually may have to watch for our first severe weather threat across Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, just portions of the southern and central plains for the first time in a while here. And it looks like we actually may start to get a bit of shortwave troughs across the plains, the central and southern plains. So be ready in this area, as we actually could start to see a return of severe weather by mid-July. But atmosphere does look, or the jet stream looks to be lifted very far off to the north. And whenever we go to precipitation and everything, it's going to show here. You can tell all the storm systems so far look to be staying off to the north. Here, as we get into mid-July, you can tell we actually may get a storm system or two across the plains, but nothing too crazy. So I do think severe weather is going to quiet down for a bit here into mid-July. But you can tell mid-July, GFS is picking up on a hurricane, but obviously that's pretty far out. So we're going to have to watch it, but nothing too crazy, I don't think. And here's the European model, and it's going to show that same thing. Jet stream lifted extremely far to the north, as you can tell. Maybe a shortwave trough or two to move through the plains, but overall, nothing too crazy. And as we look here on radar, what radar may look like, that's going to show that too. Just nothing really. So we're definitely going to watch it, but I do think severe weather is actually going to die down. So that would be a good thing, but we still have to watch this area in particular for storms. But overall, nothing too crazy. Now here's the Tropic update. Well, we do actually have a 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours and 7 days. And if this develops, we may actually see it clip portions of North and South Carolina, the eastern coast, as a tropical storm. But I honestly am not leaning towards it. Here's what the GFS shows on it. You can tell it has it developing as a very weak tropical storm and making landfall for about 12 hours before it just brings tropical depression type winds and then just excessive rainfall. So we're going to have to watch it, but I don't think anything too crazy is going to come out of this. So that's a good thing, but definitely be on the lookout on the East Coast. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great Independence Day, and make sure to stay weather aware, and I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.